and welcome to another episode of Death By, where contestants will earn reps for their arguments for a chance to stand on top of the podium pedestal. I am your host, Lauren Kalil. Whoever I decide has the best argument through the final round will earn 30 seconds to talk about a topic of their choosing. Before we get to today's episode, we want to thank our sponsor, Vuori. If you haven't tried out this brand before, you are seriously missing out, because this is the most buttery soft material that you have ever put on your body. It's good for travel. It's good for working out. It's even good enough to put on for a night out with your friends, or even a casual dinner with friends and family. Now, to get 20% off, you can go to vuori.com and use our code VUORI.com/TEF to enjoy a life of comfort. Now, on today's episode, we have the Chief Executive Officer at HWPO, Matt O'Keefe, affiliate owner and CrossFit analyst Chase Ingraham with Get With The Programming, who is an OG, and founder and head coach of Underdogs Athletics, Justin Cotler. He is a dog, man. We have finished quarterfinals. There's a lot going on. We have 3 topics. We're going to see where we lead, because I know there's a lot we want to talk about. So we're going to get right to the show. And also Matt O'Keefe, he's going to be munching on some chips while we do it.
I'm good.
He's good. Okay, let's get to topic number 1. Let's play Death By. So unlike the Open, we saw a lot of usual big name athletes dominate these quarterfinal workouts. But what would be the impact if Open scores rolled over to quarters, and should CrossFit implement this? We will start topic number 1 with Matt O'Keefe.
Sorry, I was looking for my mute button. Anyway, honestly, I really like this. I think this contributes to what I think we really need to evolve towards, which is a point system. And it's another way to go about it, which is taking stages along the way from the season and contributing to, the results at the games. I mean, you can do this a number of different ways. The impact is that athletes will focus more on it. I mean, that's an easy result of that, which might be what, CrossFit and Dave wants. And I don't think it's overburdensome to them to ask them to go hard once over 3 weeks. I think if you give them credit, not just at quarters, but maybe across the board, that might make more sense to me. But yeah, you put more impact on a score, people are going to pay more attention to it, which I think is, some of the banter around about the Open not mattering to the top elite of the world or whatnot. That's one way to help it contribute and be more substantial, from, how they pay attention to it or the scoring. But I'd love to see the Open, quarters, semis scores live to the games. Quite frankly, from my perspective, either through a point system, or the Open's 1 event, the quarters are 2 events, the semis are 3 events. You have 5, 6 scores going into the games, and then there's 15 more scores. Many sports do this that I really enjoy watching and following, and I think it makes it really fun to watch the season contributing to the final, like golf, bull riding. There's many examples of it, but I think it puts more impact on it for sure. And I don't think it's the worst thing. I think it creates a better storyline that we can cover and talk about along the way leading up to the CrossFit Games.
3 points for Matt O'Keefe. Chase?
I'm so glad you asked, because I've actually done this math for you guys since January. And we, on our Get With The Programming, we decided to take a different perspective of the strength of field system they currently have in place. And our system is take away 2 years of past performance and let's focus on the now. And so what we did is we looked at people's Open performance based off our worldwide finishing week to week. And then now we're coupling it with their quarterfinals performance, and that dictates the strength of field for semifinal contention. And what we found is that not only is it going to make the Open matter more for the elite athletes, but it just makes it exciting overall, because now you have content you can create on a weekly basis. You have storylines you can make, like O'Keefe said, on a weekly basis going into the Open. Now we're going to look at what's announced even harder. We're going to talk about the athletes even more. And now quarterfinals is going to matter 10 times as much as it ever did because of what's coming in from the Open. But the thing with that is that if you're going to make the Open matter that much, you have to nail the programming, not just because of making it making the Open matter more, but now instead of 25%, which people are worried about in quarterfinals, which they nailed, by the way. But when you have a couple 100,000 people taking the same test, that's when the real focus needs to go, nailing the program in the Open if you're going to have it matter for the season.
4 points for Chase. Justin?
Well, you guys know me. I'm a kind of curmudgeon about this. I'm not a big fan of the Open and meaning anything other than just having a lot of fun with the community. I'm a big fan of ultimately going to where what matters are in-person competitions. I want to see a season that has in-person competitions. That's where you're gathering your points, not online, not with your friends judging you. I mean, it just lowers the impact of the professionalism of the sport. I ultimately don't want to see this. I think it'd be terrible. So ultimately, I'd kind of like to devalue it. I'd like to ultimately get to the point where we're seeing points being accumulated during the season at in-person events, more like the old sanctional system, but obviously more regulated because that was the wild, wild west. But I want to see this thing start to become more and more professional along the lines of F1, along the lines of PGA Tour, the tennis tour, et cetera, where we're seeing incredible athletes compete in person around the world year round, gathering points. And then where we have, Grand Slam events like the CrossFit Games, like Rogue, like Wadapalooza, et cetera. That's what I want to see. I think we're antiquated here with the Open. And I think we're, if we want this thing to get rolling and we want this thing to become a serious sport, I think we need to change our thinking completely.
But I do like the push of getting more events in person. 4 points for Justin. If this were to have happened this year, is this the right programming from Open to quarterfinals to do that?
No.
No.
Absolutely not. And the reason is we did the numbers looking at it. And if you combine Open performance with quarterfinals performance, Europe has 50% of the top 100 men and women. 50%.
Oh my gosh.
It may be a topic later on this show, but it just shows you is like, depending on the demographic, because most European athletes fare well in more online competition or Open type programming, whereas I would say maybe Oceania and North America, when you start adding some more higher skill and strength, then they rise up. So the Open didn't have that much balance this year. I'm not saying it was bad for the job at which he was, like Justin said, it actually did a good job of letting everybody play this year.
Yep.
So I wouldn't look at this year's programming as a way to judge whether this is a good idea or not.
Okay, and with that being said, we're going to kind of turn left. We were going to save this to the last topic, but since Chase already brought it up, moving on to topic number 2, we are going to talk specifically about Europe. Now that quarterfinals is complete, 40 athletes from each region will advance to the in-person stage of competition, which is semifinals. But breaking down the placement from the leaderboard thus far, Europe, specifically, the women's last athlete to get a bid to semis ranks 87th worldwide, and for the men, 94th worldwide. On the flip side, for North America West, their last athlete is placed 256th worldwide for the men and 235th for the women. North America gets 2 bids or gets 2 semifinals, while Europe only gets 1. Should Europe, in fact, get 2? Chase, we will let you kick off round number 2.
It's a very good question, and it's interesting because an athlete that I like to use in an example of what you're talking about even more so is that if you look at the worldwide top 100, and I'm going to use David Shorunke as an example. He's 88th worldwide in quarterfinals. Currently, he wouldn't even make the European semifinals. He's sitting in 42nd place. Now that can change, but imagine that. You were the top 100 male athlete in the entire world and you can't even make your own semifinal. I think there needs to be some discussion here. And based off some of the things we've been looking at worldwide for Europe specifically, is that there is a talent pool there that would, I would say, You could argue for to have 2 semifinals. I don't think there's the depth, though. They are really jam-packed at the top and not so much at the bottom where other semifinals are so. But I could see Europe getting a second semifinal, but maybe not 40 and 40. I would argue the fact that there's way too many semifinals that are taking 40. South America, Asia, Africa, you guys don't need 40 people. U.S. has proven that. 40 there. Maybe Europe gets 2 30-person semifinals. And these other, I would say, second-tier semifinals get 30, not 40. Oceania, they've earned those 40. So I would say, yes, it's definitely something that should be looked at when you just look at the numbers overall. Maybe not at the volume of 2 semifinals, but they took 60 last year. You can take 60 and split it up into 2 semifinals with 30 and 30.
4 points for Chase. Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the quality of the athletes in Europe right now, and it's really astounding, honestly. I mean, the depth and on both the men's and women's side. And, you know, I have some athletes obviously that compete there. And I mean, it's crazy to look at where they are in Europe and where they would be, you know, anywhere else. So something has to be done. You know, I do agree with Chase. You know, you could have 2 split it up, you know, 30-30, or you look at it and maybe they do 1, but instead of 40, you have 50, you know, something along those lines, 50 or 60. But there's no question that it's going to have to be looked at. I mean, the numbers don't lie. You can't just be like, oh, well, you know, no, it's, I mean, you look at these athletes in comparison to the rest of the world, and they're, you know, they're fantastic. And it's deep and on both the men's and women's side. And to just say, hey, you know, they get 40 just like everybody else, you know, you're not really doing your due diligence when it comes to the data.
3 points for Justin. Matt O'Keefe, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Europe's super impressive. I mean, we see it with, you know, our membership. You know, that's really a big growth market. You know, there's a lot of great athletes. We have a number that just follow our pro track that have qualified through, which is super cool. I'd like, you know, I don't necessarily know that adding more events is the answer. And my business cap kind of goes to that is events are, you know, expensive to operate, to broadcast. I'd like to see how we use the current system, you know, to our advantage. Maybe moving some of Eastern Europe to the Asian side of the business or the competition, or more people in Europe. But yeah, I don't think we need to add another event that we need to broadcast, talk about separate. I think there's definitely ways to go about that. But yeah, I mean, like easy way would be like, hey, if anybody's within the top 200 in the world, no matter what our numbers are, you know, they go to that semifinal that they're, you know, the region that they're within, like for sure. Like David Shrunke's a perfect example. He should be there. He proved last year that he should be there. You know, and again, we're talking about the open and quarterfinals and the tests. Like, you know, sometimes it doesn't always produce the athletes that'll do best at the games or semis. So I think we need to keep those things in mind. But it is so impressive how, you know, this, you know, the star has risen in that region. And I think we really need to sit down and think about how we best go about it. But for me, my money would be on put some people into Asia, give some more spots from those Eastern European nations. And not run more events. That's the last thing we need to do right now is have more events and spend more money.
Good thoughts there. 5 points for Matt O'Keefe. Going back to the fact that all of the regions have the same spots for semifinals, any idea or thoughts as to why that was the solution for this year?
Consistency of numbers would probably just my baseline reason. And sometimes I think we dive really deep in the reasons of why they do certain things. And I actually think it's as simple as, hey, 40, 40, and 30 looks really nice on a piece of paper.
Right.
But does it make sense as a sport that we're trying to push in the direction of, hey, these are the best athletes in CrossFit?
I honestly, if we're addressing the lower number per region, I mean, quite frankly, just take yourself back to last year and be like, okay, well, you know, those final 2 heats were, I mean, they're incredible athletes. Let's not, you know, miss that. But it's like nobody's watching, paying attention. It's making the days longer. I mean, they're doing the right things, and it's an elite professional sport. Like, you know, it's not like they cut out, you know, a ton of, competitors that are, making a massive contribution run at the numbers. I mean, we are talking about that in Europe, so maybe that's where the adjustment needs to be. But I don't think there's an example you can give of a situation where, they've eliminated 20 people that they've cut somebody's throat out because, they don't have the chance that they deserve that they were close with the year prior. I think it's the right move to be less on the elite level when you're talking about elite professional competition. But, we obviously have to figure out the Shorunke or the Europe situation in that process.
Okay, we will move to topic number 3. If you were CrossFit HQ, out of the 4 workouts that we saw in quarterfinals, what is the one that you would dial in on and use as video review? If you could just pick one for everybody, which one would it be? We will let Justin Cotler start this round.
For me, it would be workout 3. There's a lot in there to take a look at, obviously, with all the gymnastics. I guess maybe I'm just saying it because it was my favorite one, and I'd be the least bored watching that one. But yeah, that would be the one for me. I can see an argument maybe for number 1 as well, but I think you've got more people who would cut corners for number 3. I just think because of how challenging that test is. So if it were up to me, I would vote for workout number 3.
3 points for Justin. O'Keefe, which one would you review? You're on mute.
You're on mute. So you just got zeroed out. That was it. That's all. Sorry, bro. Technological issues. The game's just zeroed you out.
We will have time for that, Justin. Don't you worry.
Wow,
You're gonna have to put in an appeal, bro.
Gotta warn me when you shoot those shots across the bow, bro.
I think that this goes to something that Justin was talking about in a prior discussion topic is, live competition opposed to virtual. And, the most impactful spots on our calendar, it's hard for me as someone that's involved with a bunch of athletes to look at, it's not like selective accountability is such an aggressive way to say it, but like, I don't know another way to sort of characterize it because it's literally bandwidth at that point. But, at this level, it's so important and razor thin. Look with even people that are going or not to semis this year. I just find it hard to not review how they move through all of these things, to be honest with you. And I think, some of those workouts are less burdensome, but, take the burpee box jump over workouts. Like there are so many videos that I saw where people's feet were swinging outside the box. And it's like, okay, well, how are we going to deal with this? Like maybe that's a bad thing that they should be identifying because if your feet land on top of the box, no matter how, like in the end, that's the answer. I think it's, it's just, I have a hard time with not, having that accountability for everything that these guys are doing when we're talking about such a grand prize that they're all pursuing. It's hard to swallow on that side. And I've also been on the same side as CrossFit and had to review 40,000 people's videos at Wodapalooza, and it's impossible. So what's the answer on this? Then, if we're picking a video, like, yeah, I mean, I'd pick that gymnastics workout because there's a lot of components there where you can, take a millimeter and gain, hundreds of feet, because on the handstand push-ups, not touching the line or just how some of those movements go. So yeah, I mean, every system's going to be imperfect. It's really hard. I just think that, less people now, maybe there's a way to say like, we can review more, top 200 in each region. Again, that's like hours and hours of video review. It's just, I just have a hard time with it. I think that the answer is then what Justin said. I think that finding a way to get people together to compete is more important than anything at this point. It's really the answer to this. So yeah, the gymnastics video to directly answer it, but I don't know how we don't review all of this because, there's also accountability for, I think, people who finish best in these workouts that isn't for others. So if I win a workout in the world and that's not the video selected, my video is reviewed. And I'm not bitching about it. That's like some of the price of greatness. It's just like, hey, that's an unfair level of accountability for one human or 10 humans that were close to that number that everybody else doesn't have, you know? So it's not perfect. It's hard to do. I totally get it. There's more than people can see from meets their eyes as a fan or consumer. But yeah, it's live competition is the answer.
Long answer, but some good stuff in there.
Sorry.
I'll still give you 4 points, O'Keefe. There was a lot of good little nuggets in there. He still gets 4 points. Chase,
Oh,
last but not least, he's getting a little bitter over here.
oh no. I'm just, it's exciting.
don't like
Your point system is never ceases to keep.
Oh, you are bitching about the point system that benefits you every week?
Okay,
Go ahead, Chase.
cool. The video review process vital to what we're doing because we're online competition, right? And there's a small way to do this that is a filtering system within the system that we're using is that there's a small number of people that are doing quarterfinals to make semifinals. I feel like that's an easy box to check when you register for quarterfinals if you want to put yourself in the running for that, to filter out those that are just there for fun, like I was. And that'll whittle down your field by thousands of people. And that's just something that they could use to help video review and view all of them like Matt was talking about. But if you look at the 4 events that they had, is like each one of them, save for the last one, was actually the easiest one to run, judge, but apparently not submit your scores. Underdogs. It's that
Gracie's giving a shot at you.
Hey, she can try. They all have a main crux here. You look at 24.1, and it's the extension at the top of the box that is a vital part. And did people let the cows roll over or not? And how do we view that? But if you look at the difference between first and 40th place, it was 19 reps, and it's only 7% of the total score with that top group in the world. And I was just looking at the men because that's a lot of numbers to go through. You look at 24.2, measuring your wall ball height and making sure you get below parallel is vital to making sure if a workout is easier or harder to do, and especially getting the box height. But even between that, your top 40 score in the world is a difference of 90 seconds, and that's 10%. You look at the third one. The third one, measurements were vital. Measurements were crucial. It was the entire part of that. Making sure that tape line is 30 inches and it's 10 inches from the wall from the back side of the tape and it's 2 inches thick is vital to success or failure for strict handstand push-ups and especially wall-facing handstand push-ups. Making sure your rope is 15 feet high and not 14 and a half, or that you're touching at the top and not just at the bottom. That's the difference between a climb and a half or 2 climbs itself. Looking at the lockout on the ring muscle-ups for the last 20, when it all comes down to that at the end of the workout, this is the most crucial thing you can do, because if you fudge those line markers, it changes the workout entirely. If you don't force people to have good lockouts on handstand push-ups and ring muscle-ups, it changes this workout entirely. And why that's important, because there's a 90-second difference between first and 40th worldwide for the men, and that's almost 20% of the actual workout. Not only is this the most vital thing for measurements, but it's the most vital thing between first and a couple of hundred places, just based off how people perform the movements and how they're measured. Number 3 is by far the most important one to get videos on.
5 points, Chase.
I love how everyone agreed with. I love how everyone agrees with me, and I get the least amount of points.
Hey,
Every week.
This is the status quo. By the way, one of the answers is judging, and I missed that, but we had AFJ in for open and quarters.
How was that?
Awesome. And they are like all that measurement, all that stuff. Like they involve the athlete to make sure that the athlete's accountable. Dude, there's like the stress level from like 100 to 0 or in seconds, because they're there and they're the people on the floor at these events, at the games and semis and Rogue. It's like, hey, let's partner with them and get some sort of certification process, which is hard because it's not necessarily going to be accessible to everyone, but at least that's a step in the process to be like, hey, if an AFJ approved judge judges you, your score is immediately validated,
That's why we didn't do it, to be honest, because it's not.
It doesn't mean anything at this
Right.
point, from like, getting, through something like that. But for us, it was, we could coach, coaches weren't judging, like, and we knew that, the standard was going to be held. There was going to be no, gray areas, thin lines. It was awesome. Those people are amazing, by the way. I mean, it's a passion, just like everything we've all done here and grown into. Like, they're starting something that's really vital to, I think, the growth of the sport. And they're super passionate about it. They're really good at what they do. I mean, I know people go to Wadapalooza, which I was a part of, and like certain divisions have tough judging experiences. The best judges in the world, the professional judges as a whole, do a really good job, honestly. And they have for a while. You don't see a lot of controversy, if any, at these bigger events because those guys are spot on. There's a little dribs and drabs. There's always going to be officiating issues at times, but man, they're pretty amazing. And they
So you're
got
saying CrossFit should offload the entire video review process to this group of people who literally want to do that.
100%,
great.
1,000%.
And if they would affiliate with, and if there was a partnership there with CrossFit, then it's a no-brainer. Everyone would use them.
That'd be awesome, right?
It would
That whole
actually
process.
I feel like
Why do
some
you
of
think
them
they don't
already
do
do it.
that?
It's too new. That's a lot to put into and not to discredit what they're doing. Thank God that they're putting this together. It's about time that a group came together and did this. But like, it's unproven, and to just rest that in the hands this quickly is just not something CrossFit tends to do. And so, could it be? I think absolutely. What a great way to. I mean, delegation, right? You guys, I mean, you like all you guys know that like if you can delegate to the right people, it makes everything easier, right? It makes the whole ship run smoother. So hopefully it'll get to a place like that.
I mean, you go down the list of people that are involved in that, like, every one of them, they're familiar faces, and you're definitely would look at them and be like, she or he's a badass judge, and so they're I mean, when they walked, like both times when they walked in, Matt was like, "Oh shit, they did this workout at the games."
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they're awesome. Honestly, I love what they're doing. I mean, it's just helping us evolve. I think we need to validate them. And by the way, most of those guys, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them do video review for CrossFit. So it's like not that distant, to have people like that then take that out from a contract basis perspective. So they're great.
So I know that Chase won this episode. We are going to give him 30 seconds for a topic of his choosing, but then I also want to get O'Keefe and Justin to have their moment to talk about whatever they want to say with
Really?
Yes, there's a lot
Good
going
battle.
on. Things are unofficial, but I just want to open the floor. Chase, I know you have to go shortly, so we'll let you go
Hurry
first.
up, Chase, will you?
I'll go first, and then I'll leave because I don't really care what these other two people have to say with their pity 30 seconds.
Noted.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, 30 seconds.
Yeah, maybe a minute.
No, really quick. I saw this on Instagram, and I'm ashamed of myself that I've never thought of this for measuring rope climbs. But for all you guys out there, I've said this a couple times. I saw they had a 15-foot metal PVC pipe.
Yeah, so
They
good.
measured it on camera and then showed the length of the pole to the 15-foot marker on the rope that it touched the floor. And I just want to say that I'm ashamed of myself that I've never thought of something so simple and genius to measure rope climbs for online competition before. So for all of you out there, I've spent 15 years doing this. So 1 year for every foot of ropes that I've been having to measure for the last several years. So there's my 30 seconds. And for all of you guys,
That's a good one. I saw that too, and I was like, wow, that's really very, very good.
That was good.
Great idea. We love it. Matt, you're up next.
Geez, I would have, Lauren, I've basically been put in a box and I don't even prepare for the afterthought because I know I'm never going to get the opportunity to do this. But I will say that I my own physical experience with CrossFit has been wild the last 6 months. And I ran a marathon a little over a week ago. And I know I've talked a little bit about this. We were able to raise a bunch of money for an awesome charity, which was the Y. It was terrible. And I was very prepared. I hurt myself in the process. I tore my calf, but I dragged my right leg around for 13 miles. That was exciting. But I'm just like, constantly reminded of, being in the right place. It's, what I get to do on a daily basis from a training perspective works. I mean, think about 26 miles is such a stark contrast to what your eyeballs would look at from, walking in a CrossFit gym door, and the foundation at which I've built, around my fitness over the last 10 years. I was able to dive right into that at, paces and thoughts of, how I might finish that race, that were never even, in my wildest dreams when I was running marathons 20 years ago. So just super cool. I love where we're at. I love CrossFit. It does magical things. And it was also such a cool experience as to see how much of the CrossFit world's integrated. And I think that's my point is like, challenge yourself, get out, do things like that. I saw somebody every mile that knew who I was from these shows and being in the CrossFit space or CrossFitters running. It's vital to your, sustainability and even CrossFit. Run races, do high rocks, do tough mudders, do whatever it is. CrossFit works for it all. You don't have to like leave the CrossFit gym to go run a marathon. You don't have to leave your CrossFit gym to go do a high rocks. That's a great way to train for anything that's out there. And I'm proof of it. I'm 47 years old and I just ran a marathon. That's wild to me. So super cool.
Justin
Awesome,
Cotler.
dude.
Oh, congrats also.
Yeah, congrats, bro.
on the marathon.
Very cool.
I'm sorry about your calf.
Me too. My calf is too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Cotler.
Yeah, I would be very interested to get other people's opinions on the length of this year's quarterfinals. It felt like it was 3 weeks. And I, as a coach of athletes and, an owner of a training camp, and I'm sure others can chime in here, I don't understand the extended windows. You had athletes redoing workouts 3-4 times. I would love to investigate this further and see if maybe there's the opportunity to alter this and change this. Maybe go back to what we had before. If anything, I would like to limit it more. At the end of the day, when you look at semifinals in the games, you get one shot at a workout. I think that this year's quarterfinals were dumbed down a bit simply because people were able to redo them 2 and 3 times. And ultimately, I'm just not a big fan of that. And so in the future, I would love to limit the time windows. You give people enough time to get them done once, give it your best shot. And if you get there, you get there. And if you don't, you don't. And I guarantee you, the majority of the people that we want there will be there if it's only 2 days each window.
Well, and I think that comes back to, was quarterfinals meant for the affiliate or for the athletes who are actually going to semifinals? Because my affiliate owners said, this was the best year ever. We could program one of the quarterfinals workouts 4 days in a row in our normal classes, and people were able to do them. So yeah, great for the affiliate, but was it great for our semifinalists?
That's a great question. Would love to have.
They're not going to answer it.
What, O'Keefe?
Chase needs to go, so we can't answer.
Yeah,
I know.
For some reason my mute button is not working, so I can't.
There you go.
Okay. Well, anyways, the leaderboard is still technically unofficial. Scores are still going to be reviewed. Video review needs to happen. A couple of technical issues. We do also note that the leaderboard for our age group, those we're still waiting to see up there. We've been told that they are working on the technical issue. That's why we didn't really talk about it now. We'll see what happens by next week. A lot of other conversations still being had, but thank you all for being on this show to tackle a few of the topics that are within the space right now. Thanks to Fiore, our sponsor, and we'll see you guys next time.